This is the beautiful town hall in the city of St. Nicholas, which lies between Ghent and Antwerp in Belgium. It plays hosts again for the 20th time to the running of the 80th year of the famous Tour of Flanders cycle race. And it's great to be back another season, 1996, and this race drawing some of the finest riders in the world yet again. Yes, this event celebrates its 80th race. It began in 1913, and the Belgians are hoping on this Easter Sunday that the 267-kilometre event will be won yet again by Johan Museeuw, or will it be their new man on form, Edwig van Hooijdonk? Now, this race is very famous indeed for its 16 climbs. They all come in the second half of the event. The last climb before the finish is the Bosberg. And you know, they called Edwig van Hooijdonk a couple of years ago the boss of the Bosberg, because that's where he launched his winning attacks. Let's meet some of the contenders. And with Paul Sherwen is Rolf Sorensen.
Well, Rolf, a different team this year, but still the same Tour of Flanders, the kind of race that you like.
Yeah, it's a race it's a very particular race. Maybe the most, for me, I think it's the most beautiful race of all the World Cup races. It's a race where you have to be good everywhere, a little bit in the hills, in the wind, in the cobbles. So it's a race that you need particularly good specialities or specialists for this race.
But you also need a lot of courage, because everybody has some bad luck during a day like today.
Yeah, sure. As less bad luck you have, as brighter it looks, you know, and that's also, of course, you can help yourself not having the bad luck, and that's what you're going to try to do in the first 180, 200 kilometers here, and then it's very important to have a good backup team.
And for last year's winner of Paris-Roubaix, Franco Ballerini, so far he's had to be content with 4th, 6th, 8th and 10th here. Fabio Baldato, who finished second a year ago, would like to go one place better. Johan Museeuw with Paul Sherwen.
Johan, it was a great ride last year, and everybody says that you're going to be the favourite for this year. Is that a lot of pressure?
It's a pressure, but I don't care the pressure. I do my race. I know I'm good, so I do my race.
But you also have a very good team. The Mappé team seems to be the strongest team in the peloton at the moment.
We have a very strong team, yes. And when the other ones are looking at me, it should be stupid, but the other ones can win also, like Boemans and Harewicz. So it's not only me.
So it's all for one and one for all. When it comes down to the end, you try and help a teammate like Boemans win, but surely you want to win yourself.
Yes, why not? It's important to win the team. The name is not so important.
Always smiling. Well, Michele Bartoli here, third in 2 classics last year, and always races well in Belgium. Unusual for an Italian. Edwig van Hooijdonk, twice a winner, third in 1992. And André Schmiel, he was third in 94 and in 95. And the man we all want to know about, Max Chandry with Paul.
Well, Max, the morning of the race now, the weather isn't so bad. It's not raining. Cobbles are dry. How do you feel?
Good, I feel good. I feel ready, really ready. Want to go.
Seems like a lot of people wanted you to win the race in Milan-San Remo. A lot of people still want you to win today.
Yeah, you know, I mean, some journalists ask me if I want to go for points or I want to go for winning. I mean, I think it's very obvious that I want to go for the win, you know. I feel good, and you need to win, you know, so I'm ready.
Got to watch out for Museeuw, though.
Yeah, he has to look out for me, though.
Better watch out for Lance Armstrong as well, Max. No, I'm only joking, of course. They're both on the same Motorola team. But just before the eve of the race, Paul spoke with Lance.
Final question then. Lance Armstrong going into Tour of Flanders, confident?
I feel strong. I don't think there's many riders stronger than me, but my problem is that the cobblestones and the pave, I don't know if I'm 100% cut out for that, because I don't have the experience, and I don't know if I have the technique, but like I said, I have to limit my losses. I think that if I can stay out of trouble there, then yeah, I'm confident.
Good on you, Lance. And these are some of the roads the riders face. It's not just Paris-Roubaix, you know, that has cobblestones. There's still plenty of them left in the Flanders area of Belgium, and this race seeks many of them out on narrow roads, and they're not all flat like this. The riders will always choose the smoothest bit if they can, as we now join the action here in the first breakaways of the day. There were 185 riders on the start line today for the 80th Tour of Flanders. 267 kilometres the race, or 168 miles. We're now entering section number 4, the approach to the Haut Quaremont climb at kilometre 155. And these two riders, Eric de Klerk of Koolstrop, number 212, and with him now is Maura Betten. And this is the little group behind. They've not really been out of sight by a great deal all day. The breakaway going fairly early on. The traditional breakaways, we left St. Nicholas heading out across the top of Belgium before we plunge down towards Deinzer and Tielt and Waregem and then head into the hills, which is where we're approaching now. And here's the old Quaremont. This is the old bit, and this is the bit that really shakes the bones. A minute 40 is all that's left of the lead now. Eric de Klerk, a good old campaigner, and Betten, a rider we don't know a great deal about, but has been on the attack in a number of races this past season. He won only one race last year in Mendrisio, and now on the attack here at around about 155 kilometres covered. Looking down the hill here reminds me of a little story I rode up here with Jim Okowitz, the sports director of Motorola, a couple of years ago, and Eric Heiden, who won 5 gold medals in the Lake Placid Olympic Games. Jim's not a very good climber, but I never saw the end of Eric. He disappeared over the top of the hill, those big legs of his proving very useful on the climb. And now onto the cobbles. Look at this lovely crowd here. This is the race in Belgium as far as the classics go. It gets a bigger crowd even in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's the magic of the heart of Flanders cycling here, and it looks now as though it's an Italian who has a Belgian in trouble. Eric de Klerk having to hang on and just about hold Betten in his sights as they stomp over the top of the Haut Quaremont. Approximately 100 kilometres still to race. About 60 miles left. They're trying to seek just about an inch of good road there, tucked between the grass and the start of the cobblestones. This is Olaf Ludwig here setting the pace. And behind him, it looks as though we've got Frankie... no, it's Max Chandry who's come on. I didn't say Frankie Andrea, but it's Max who's taking close order in this second round of the World Cup. And the Benesto team, well, they were to ride, but they weren't among the starters because their bikes were stolen on their drive up from Spain, and the bikes were stolen, in fact, in France. So that's rather sad, especially for the young riders like Jeremy Hunt, who was hoping to ride his first Tour of Flanders. Now, the counterattacks are beginning as we start to move clear of the field here. This will begin the sort out now as the roads get narrow. We're into the area down in the Flanders area where the hills will come quite thick and fast. This looks like Rolf Sorensen who's starting to push the pace just that little bit now. Sorensen's bang on form, the winner of Kuurne Brussels Kuurne earlier this year and a stage of Tirreno Adriatico. And he's trying now to get a little group working here because they're slowly dragging in Maura Betten and Eric de Klerk. They're still split up front, by the way. De Klerk has not rejoined the leader after the climb of the Quaremont. The next big obstacle, well, they're all small obstacles really, but they are obstacles, will be the Petersberg. And that's climb number 5 of the 16 bergs sprinkled throughout this event. This looks like Francis Lemarchand of the GAN team, who's now taking up the running at the front. But long turns by individual riders, with one of the MG riders coming up behind him there, a little group trying to go clear. 2 of them trying to open a gap. We're about 157 kilometres into the race now. And as they head up to the small roads again, the constant reshuffling of the pack at the front as riders try to see the road first. And MG have brought up a number of the riders here right now to keep an eye on affairs because they've got the firepower to win this race and they know it. Well, they took out the first classic of the season with Gabriele Colombo. He rides number 23 in the race today and should be fairly easy to pick out if we catch a glimpse of him in the new leader's jersey of the World Cup. Back up now to the Petersberg, this very narrow climb, and this is Betten finding the only smooth bit of road onto the left, and you have to put up with the gratings there. And look at the crowd opening up now because they know exactly where he'll ride. They expect him to come up on the inside, but they're leaving it rather late. Short and very steep and over the top, and Eric de Klerk is losing ground now. In fact, he's about half a minute back, I think. The clock's going to tell us exactly as we move over onto the Tijdswissel. As we turn right at the top of the little climb of the Petersberg. The next climb that'll come our way will be the Korte Keer. That's climb number 6. And there we are, just about 30 seconds behind for Eric de Klerk. And then it's not too far back now, less than a minute certainly, to the reaction coming from the field. And they've decided they want those 2 leaders a little bit earlier than normal today. As they tip over the top of the Petersberg, they're going to be around about 50 seconds behind, no more than that. And the field split. As we see now what is, I think, the main peloton here. Climbing it visibly slower than that chase group. And if you don't really keep in the thick of the action early on, you're just constantly going over these small climbs. Big groups just disappear and you don't see them again in the Tour of Flanders. But the weather today is reasonably good. It's a little bit chilly, but basically it's not a bad day. And now you can see a very typical race in Belgium. The flat area, the race of the peloton is individual, all of the riders scrabbling for wheels, and this is so typical of racing in this area of Belgium. Vettin, 33 seconds, 56 seconds back to the first part of the peloton. I'm pretty sure we've got people like Baldato in that chase group. Now got themselves into a very good rhythm here. They're not going to hold them off much longer, that's for sure now. And there we are, it says another 11 climbs to come and 12 stretches of cobblestones. The Mappe boys gritting their teeth and want the MG boys to come and give them a hand. Patrick Lefevre's team versus Giancarlo Ferretti's team. 2 big names in the world of team management these days. And our little man on the bicycle on the left-hand corner of your picture, counting down the kilometres to the next small climb, which will be the Korte Keer, which will take us to 165 kilometres into the race, about 103 miles or so. And this little group trying to establish a working audience here so they can pull clear and pick up the 2 riders out front who are now alone on the road. Well, as we watch the chase down here, it's interesting to note the Once team are not here again. Laurent Jalabert, still a question mark on his fitness. And again, the Spanish lineup ignoring a World Cup event. They don't really show a lot of interest at all in the World Cup races. They seem to be a team for the multi-day races. Everybody knows who rides this race that the main challenges come towards the end. The Muur de Grammont and the Bosberg, the last 2 big climbs. That's our speed indicator there, and they're going very quickly at 66 kilometers an hour and climbing at the moment. Little group of 3 trying to bridge the gap. And we're getting quite a bunch of strong men here, and once we can get down amongst them, we'll be able to pick out exactly who they are. But this is a very strong group, and at the moment, I'm certain Johan Museu is down there. Wilfred Peters, and I think that's Eric Zabel in the Telecom colours. They come off the bend and start to accelerate away. Oh, and that's Schmill. Schmill has gone down. I have no idea how that happened. He didn't seem to touch a single rider. He just seemed to completely pull his bike off the road. But a very nasty fall indeed for André Schmill. He's the man who's finished in 3rd place for the past 2 years. Just as that little bunch was starting to establish itself, now the rest of the peloton are coming by. Oh, well, I hope we get a look at that again, because Schmill actually appeared to touch nobody. It was almost as if he ripped his bike off the surface of the road trying to sprint out of that corner. He's up and away, and he's going to join in the back of that group. But that was a nasty looking crash, and thankfully it looks as though the man from Moldavia isn't hurt as he starts to get back into the action. We're still 103 kilometres, almost 104 kilometres from the finish, about 65 miles to go, and there's a little express train coming past him there, so Schmill can mix it with those, and with a bit of luck he might get back into the action at the front. But I think he fell from a group there that was beginning to establish quite a lead. He won't be happy with that. And he's playing around with his back brake there as if he's not too happy with the way the bike is handling at the moment. But he's found himself a teammate to ride behind. And let's have a look at it again. Here we go. Now watch him come down. He's halfway down the line here. We came into this corner very, very quickly indeed. The riders were hitting this corner at 65 kilometers an hour, don't forget. And you need to look about 5 or 6 men from the back of the group as he comes into our picture now. Watch him in the center of our picture. He accelerates away, looks over his shoulder, and then seems to pull his bike off the floor. A very ugly fall for André Schmill, that. It's always a little bit upsetting when you fall down on your front, because you somehow don't seem to be able to protect yourself quite as well as if you go down on your back. But because of the cold weather today and the arm warmers, he's probably saved his elbows a little bit of a grazing session there. Anyway, back up to the man who's leading the Tour of Flanders, the 80th edition, don't forget. At the moment, there were big celebrations at the start this morning for the 80th running of what Belgium see as their final single-day event. And the 24 teams are now spread all around Flanders. It's been a very quick race as we now begin hill number 6, which is Curt. There's the details. 8% is the gradient, and it's 600 meters long with an average climb, steepest climb in the middle of 6%. And the man who's about to tackle it first is Mauro Bettin from the Refin team, a team, by the way, which has now attracted Jamaluddin Abdu-Japarov, the great sprinter this year, who has left what was Novell and is now the Rabobank team. Many changes as the old guard also, we start to see a lot of riders of names we know retire and new ones come in. This is the composition of that breakaway now. Johan Museo, the hot favourite, is right there. Last year's winner wearing number 1. And Wilfred Peters, Baldato, who was second, is also there. Bartoli is there. Cipollini, the sprinter. I'm surprised about that. Ekimov, Cipollini wasn't having such a great race in Milan-San Remo, but now a little bit of a turnaround of the form. Speak of the man, there he is, right on the front on the left of our picture. Alongside him here is Johan Museu, the hot favourite, of course, to repeat his victory of a year ago. And he just loves this event, always had. The last 3 years he's had 2 firsts and a second. And here we are on the climb of Curt. And Mauro Bettin, I think he knows now that very soon he's going to have big company with all of the favourites firing. They're just 40 seconds behind him. He's keeping the pressure on, but this hill is going to hurt those legs. The traditional escape and the traditional capture is about to come our way. Vyacheslav Yekimov going through the bottom of our camera there. Lars Mikkelsen, winner of Gent-Wevelgem a year ago. He'll be defending that title soon. He's off to the right, trying to have his lunch, but it looks a bit tough. And now the counter-attacks are coming thick and fast here. They're trying to get another move underway because they feel that perhaps that this breakaway is a little bit unmanageable. Counter-attack coming here from Gianluca Piangonda. And Piangonda has just about latched onto the back. We've got 4 riders now trying to go clear. Second in the Junior World Championships, Piangonda in Colorado Springs. That's a few years ago now. And he's latched onto the back of these 4 riders. And as you can see, these super narrow lanes, but the motorbikes, I'm afraid, are forming the final bridge here up to the Refin rider, Bettin. And having said that, the whole peloton have come out of nowhere, which means that Andre Schmil picked up the right train. He's going to recover from his crash and will be right back in the thick of the action now. So a lot of riders come back, a sudden slowing of the pace as we went up the Curt. And I think we're going to find ourselves with a complete peloton very, very shortly. The poor winter in Belgium has spread into spring too, and the trees, as you can see, are not really sprouting their leaves just yet. Mauro Bettin now suffering the same fate as the breakaway companion Eric de Klerk. He sits up, he freewheels, because his next challenge of the day now, I think, he's going to be just keeping up with the peloton. We can forget the small climb still to come. Our next climb of the day will be the Tyenberg. 9 more little climbs to come, 11 more stretches of pavé. That's what our little sign means. We're now on the Tyenberg here, and the MG boys again showing us their proficiency at setting the pace. One Festina rider on the right mixing it with them. And still riders coming onto the back of that peloton. And that's the actual honours list of the Tour of Flanders since 1986, when Adrie van der Poel, the current world cyclocross champion, was the winner in '86. Van der Poel, a very versatile bike rider. Gianni Bugno winning this race in '94, which rather upset Johan Museeuw because he got beaten by Bugno, and it cost Museeuw a victory for the past 3 years. Sitting around at the back here, Fabiano Fontanelli, and Fontanelli having a great season. And rider 94, Emmanuel Magnon, also starting to ride rather well for Festina. On to the Tyenberg, 17% is at the steepest point, and it's a very tough little hill, the Tyenberg. A chance here for the riders to springboard away. As you can see, the height above sea level, virtually nothing at 56 meters, but it is the shortness of the climb and the steepness and the regularity of them that make the riders really hurt on these climbs. And they're always on narrow roads too, and with the crowds they're often feeling even narrower. Cobbles indicated, Cassian. And that's why the riders are forcing the crowd to stand up the grass banks there, because they want to get that little bit of solid concrete on the left of the road. As the rider setting the pace up is the lieutenant of Museeuw, Wilfred Peters, and there is Museeuw. Sitting behind Wilfred, who will be prepared to commit himself 110% now to keep him in the action. That was Magnon who went through the picture there for Festina. And as always, Johan doesn't give much away with his face. There's Magnon, and now we've got an attack by Brian Home. This will be Brian Home for Telecom, who's gone. Magnon starts to chase him down, or does he? Because Brian Home has opened up a gap here. Over the top of the Tyenberg. And Andre Schmill, well, the man who fell has brought himself right up to the leaders now. He's fourth in line of this group. Magnon. He's trying to join Brian Home on the attack. And Brian's starting to look a bit frisky because he's been around the scene for an awful long time, but he looks to have pretty good form this year. And there's a flat back tire. I think it's Olaf Ludwig. Or is it Brian Home? It's Brian Home. He's just gone clear, and now he's got himself a flat tire. Well, that's bad luck. And the trouble is that Home had split the field in pursuit of him. He'd broken that leading group up completely, so the team cars are going to be a little time getting to him now. He's going to feel a little bit exasperated because, you see, he was going to stop, realised there was nobody coming. Yeah, I know exactly how he must feel. He's watching the race go away from him. By the time they get him a bike now, he could be over a minute. Look at that, they've gone. He's left only with our television camera, who can do nothing about it because we don't carry spare wheels. And it's probably just as well we're not going to hear what Brian Home might say in a few minutes. He keeps looking over. This is the drawback of the narrow roads. And his teammate, there's a teammate arrived, taking his foot out, and will give Brian another one further up the road. And this is one of the Rabobank riders here, and it looks to me very much as though we've now got Rolf Sorensen in trouble. So the rider who was third in 1991, also coming out of that leading group, which I've estimated to be around 40 riders strong, and the team cars on these narrow roads simply can't get through. There might be a case here, you know, for the riders, for the teams rather, to have their mechanics on motorbikes like they do in Paris-Roubaix, because at least they would get to the riders a little bit quicker. Now we're on to the Eichenberg, and this is climb number 8 at kilometre 178. And again, the Mappe boys are setting the pace and turning the screw that little bit tighter. They know they've got a couple of good names in trouble. Sorensen will be a rider they will be happy to see gone from this group. Those that know, in fact, he's gone. This is Emmanuel Magnon, and that's Taffy on the right. Andrea Taffy, a great pacemaker. Remember him last year in Paris-Roubaix, did a brilliant job before he saw Ballerini take the race. So Taffy setting the pace here now on the Eichenberg, another cobble climb, trying to break up this rather unmanageable big leading group here. Very quickly followed by the Valkenberg. And this is climb number 9 on the list, 181 kilometres covered now. And sitting right in here, and there he goes through our picture, Alexander Gonchenkov, who featured so well in Milan-San Remo. Lance Armstrong, that big rolling figure of Lance, sitting behind Andrea Taffy at the minute. This looks like Bortolami here. Lars Mikkelsen. Emmanuel Mannion. And in fact, it's not Bortolami, that is Taffy, so the other yellow crash helmet is worn by Bortolami. The two Mappe boys sharing the pace at the front. And I think Taffy would like the motorbike to move just that little bit further away from him. Very compact little group at the Warempberg. These little hills come thick and fast, a steep point of 13%, a height of only 68 meters above sea level. Nobody finding the pressure necessary yet to break away. Edwig van Hooijdonk on the right, the man they used to call the boss of the Bosberg, as I said earlier, but trapped today in the peloton. On the Leberg, climb number 11, there's still no change here. The riders are all together, the tempo being set consistently, but not breaking anybody up at all. Steep little climb. Rolf Jerman is the rider setting the pace on the front. As he did, he said he set the pace quite a bit in Milan-San Remo as well. Mannion has done an enormous amount of work for the Festina team. And that group's still around about 20-25 riders strong, and everybody anxious to rush through towards the Molenberg, a 4-star climb with its 80% steepest point, and yet only 33 meters, around about 100 feet above sea level. And look at this now on the Molenberg. Johan Museeuw has decided he wants to break this group up. He's just 50 kilometers from the finish, and of all people following him, it's Mario Cipollini on the left of our picture who's trying to hang on to Museeuw. Well, Museeuw has won this race when he was the champion of Belgium. The current champion of Belgium is Wilfred Nellison. He's a sprinter. Museeuw isn't a pure sprinter anymore. And he looks over his shoulder after a tremendous power climb there, and he finds with him none other than Cipollini, not a rider that Museeuw want to carry right through to the finish, although I'm not too sure that Cipollini could go right through to the finish. But anyway, we'll find out, because now they have a small gap. Museeuw sitting on the wheel. And it looks as though it was just 4 seconds as they came over the top of the climb. As the two riders are hanging on, well, you've got to start somewhere, and there's a small gap there, but Museeuw will not want to go too far without a little more help. He won't want to go alone, and I don't think Cipollini will be able to give him too much help over the climb still to come, especially the Muur de Grammont or the Bosberg. And André Schmil seems to have recovered well from his little tumble, because he's right in number 2 wheel here as they bring back these two leaders. Johan Museeuw and Mario Cipollini, and Museeuw assesses the situation, and he's seeing a fragmented chase group, but you know, it's still a good 40 riders there. He's decided it's not worth going on. He's going to hang on and try again somewhere else, I would think. Cipollini no doubt happy to be in agreement with that. More than 200 kilometers covered now as we go towards the next climb of the day, which will be the Berendries. And that leaves us with 4 climbs still to come, including the Berendries. And Museeuw will constantly want to be in the action now. He will want this group to thin out quite dramatically before the finish, if he's going to take it, because he's not a big group sprinter anymore, and there are 1 or 2 sprinters in this group still. The open plains of Flanders, so different from the other part of Belgium, of course, the Ardennes, which is wooded and big concrete mountain climbs, which we'll see in the upcoming Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And there's still one rider tempting them to come out and play here, but there's nobody, and it looks like a Motorola rider who's put his head down at the front at the moment and gone for it. Now that could be Max Chandry who's put in an attack. He's being joined here by Lars Mikkelsen. It is Chandry and Lars Mikkelsen of Denmark, winner of Gent-Wevelgem. And Pianagonda. Pianagonda, who had a very good season last year to project himself as a name to watch out for, has now projected himself into a group of 3, which has been spearheaded by Max Chandry. Chandry still carrying the scars of the loss of Milan-San Remo, but he has very good form this year, Max. And if you could just get this small group going. The fact is, though, they need a Mapei rider here because of the strength of that team. They're going to be chasing hard until they put a man in a breakaway, and then they might ease off a little bit. So Max Chandry, Mikkelsen, Pianagonda, about 206 kilometers covered. 22 seconds to what we're calling the Museo group. And in fact, that's gone up from 16 seconds. So they are going clear at the moment. And that will cause a little bit of consternation, because once we get to the Berendries, we might see the gap open. And it's the powerhouse of Mapei, Taffy, who is again doing all of the workhorse work at the front. He's never afraid to put in more than his weight behind the wheels there. Lance Armstrong, number 3 wheel, just trying to disrupt affairs for Motorola, while he hopes Max Chandry will get away. So Motorola got the 2 top men up here today. Maybe they can do something with that. Brian Holm, number 103, he was the rider we saw flat, and this looks to me as though he's coming across the gap. Carlo Bowman's number 4 with the Mapei team also coming across. So that's a great ride by Holm. And now the usual hesitation as the riders want to see somebody else come to the front and do the work. This is Max Chandry. There's his positions in the world rankings. Now he's currently 24, slipped only slightly. His highest place of 20th achieved at the end of last season in the world rankings. But these 3 look as though they've still got plenty of fight in those legs to try and open this gap. Lars Mikkelsen of Denmark has a little problem actually with his saddle, or under his saddle, because he has a boil where we don't really talk about, and he may have to have that operated on. He's a bit worried about it, but anyway, he's come out into the breakaway and he's joined the leaders. Perhaps trying to bring himself onto the sort of form that won his only win last year was the great classic Ghent-Wevelgem. And that wasn't a bad win either, because he outsprinted Maurizio Fondriest for it. And Pianagonda in that breakaway, a stage winner in the Tour of Spain last year. One of only 2 wins. The other one was in the Reggio Tour, Tour of the Regions. Nothing like the strength of the quality of field as the Tour of Spain. So he's a rider who's progressing very, very well now. He was 2nd overall in the smaller tour, the Tour of the Regions. And now it looks to me as though this bunch is slowly reorganizing themselves here, because they've got extra help in Carlo Bowman's, the Mapei boys. And is Brian Holm still behind? No. In fact, that rider there is Laurent Brochard, the Frenchman on the Festina team. There's the grimace of Andrea Taffy, indicating he's feeling the chill air from Italy, because he's wearing quite thick woolly gloves there. And the gap is still going up. This is looking good for Chandry, Mikkelsen and Pianagonda. 44 seconds now, and this isn't a group which hanging around. They're all willing to chase, it seems. Museo sitting at the back of the race here. Olaf Ludwig just coming through on it. No, Rolf Aldag that was, from the Telecom team. The man who featured that long breakaway in Milan-San Remo. And bouncing over the cobbles there was Laurent Desbiens from the GAN team, given team leader status today in the absence of the Englishman Chris Boardman. That's Desbiens going up on the outside. Brochard flashing through the camera. Taffy. Somebody is actually accelerating quite well at the front, because there's an awful lot of gaps between these wheels. Lance Armstrong goes through. Fabio Baldato. Konchenkov. Well, they're absolutely flying over these cobblestones. Oh, and that was a big hole too. Emmanuel Magnon bouncing across the cobbles. And certainly they seem, somebody is really, that was Fondriest just passing through. Here he is. Andre Schmil passing him without a glance. Fondriest leaving the door open a little bit, and Andre won't like that too much. And Fabio Roscioli. So it's a pity we can't get up to the front and see who actually is applying the pressure now, because somebody has really turned the screw a little bit tighter. This is Brochard. And number 12 is Michele Bartoli, so he's made the split as well. Man who had third in Liège last year and third in the Tour of Lombardy. Smooth roads, a chance for the legs to recover for just a few seconds before we head off into the climbs again. Delbien. Well, I must say this looks to be such a good working group at the moment. I'm not too sure that that 3-up is going to stay away too long. We're well inside 50 kilometers from the finish. They're giving it 34 seconds, so they pull back 10 seconds in a workmanlike fashion there, the Museo group. And not with the help of Museo either, because he was sat at the back. They're the three leaders. Chandri and Pianagonda decided to go on to the side of the road because, as the little graphic indicates, we're on the cobbles again. 30th was his finish in the Tour of Flanders last year for Pianagonda, so he knows what it's like, he knows the course. And now heading on to, that's officially the 50 kilometer to go point. That's 31 miles to go. Now that should give him a little bit of impetus. Max seems to enjoy racing down the cobbles as he stays in the big gears and chooses the way down. And this is a problem here. And we've got another puncture here, and it looks as though Andrea Perron has gone out of the group with a flat tyre. Jimokovic is right on hand. And so is Jeff the mechanic. Now, Jeff, you're under pressure here. The whole of the world is watching you. You've got to get a good change and get him back in before those cars start to drift. And you can see the experience of Perron, casually back on his bike and back into the race. So Perron will have a bit of work to do if he's going to feature now, because he's got to move his way up. And it looks to me as though now Carlos Bomas, who came up to this group, is now prepared to work for his team and set the pace, with Laine Debian in second place as we head into the feed now at Zottegem. Lars Mikkelsen taking out what he fancies and getting rid of what he doesn't. There's the souvenir. This little town of Zottegem. I once finished third in a race here. Must have been luck. And away slips to the right, and now they're going to have to get on with it because the gap is nothing at all here. It's almost as if they are not fancying their chances. They don't seem to. I mean, they came very casually through that feed zone, and we're looking at around about 27 miles, no more to go to the finish. And they must be very conscious of the fact they don't have a Mappe rider here. They know the strength of that team. They know that team has to be chasing. Pianagonda taking as much drink as he can on board. There's not the urgency of racing to get through, to swing through and off and keep the momentum of this breakaway. Max seems to be doing a little bit more than his fair share here. 23 seconds now. Gone out very slightly, so the group may well have slowed down to take on fuel at Zottegem as well. There they are, and Bowman's is the workhorse for the maps. Armstrong is the blocker for the Motorolers. He's just going to ride number 2 wheel and hope he can disrupt the system a little bit. Carlo Bowman's a former champion of Belgium, but like so many Belgians now, seems to have found his way to the teams in Italy, where I think the pay is better. But also you have to work a lot harder, as Carlo is finding out these days, as he sets the pace here now to try and set up Johan Museo for the win. But they've still got to figure out how they're going to close down this gap. Andre Schmil always seems to ride near the front of the peloton, but never puts in any work. He just watches the wheels and keeps an eye on the system, but he doesn't make any of the pace until he's sure he'll get something out of it, and he rides always 4th or 5th wheel. Nobody willing to assist Bowman. Certainly not Lance Armstrong there in second place. There's the 4 climbs remaining. We're on the Berendries, then we've got the Valkenberg, then the Muur. That's enough to send a chill down your spine. And then the Bosberg, and then you go as quick as you can as you scuttle for the line. This is still a big group. It's unusual for a Tour of Flanders to have quite such a big bunch at this stage. There's still a lot of riders well capable of winning this event. And Schmill has moved up into second place. Now careful, Andre, you could find yourself at the front at this rate. As the gap continues to fall, 17 seconds down, and still Carlo Bowmans is making the pace. There's Andre Schmill. The year he won Paris-Roubaix, he lived literally just around the corner, so it was almost a home victory for him. He's moved house now. And we've got a strong attack going here. And this is the sort of attack which will start the reaction I think the race is looking for now, to try and eat into that lead. And the attack comes from Roslotto, ZG Mobili. And it looked to me as though it was Alexander Gonchenkov trying to hurt them a little bit there. We've still got this very large group, and we've still got just those 3 or 4 climbs still to come. But they are the most difficult in the Tour of Flanders. And the entourage, it's a long way down if you made a bad draw today at the end of that long column of team cars, because you are a long way behind the action. Our helicopter moving up to this small breakaway group. They've hung on in there, but they still have not really escaped the grip of that very hard-working back bunch. They've been out there now for around about 22 kilometers in the lead. Johan Museo, and just on his right there is Gonchenkov. Another attack being launched there. It looks like it might be Serpellini who's gone out to the front of the group. Number 117. The rider's looking pretty tired at the moment, Fabio Roscioli. But this is all coming back together again here. Five riders getting up towards the front of the race and creeping that little bit closer to the escapees. But you know, that could work in the favour. If a small group can reach them, then Chandri, Mikkelsen and Pianagonda would welcome a small group, because then they could get really stuck into the move. They need a Mappe rider in that group to succeed. They know it, I think, because there are so many Mappe riders in this chase down. And the biggest of them all is right here, Johan Museo. Never out of the first two even in the last 3 years of the Tour of Flanders. These narrow, twisting roads around Flanders, which many of the Belgian cyclists spend hours training on them, usually in the rain at this time of the year. The gap is now down to just 10 seconds. There has been a general regrouping in the chase. Museo's group, as we're calling it, is now just about to capture those 3 riders, and I would say that would give them a breakaway that's lasted round about 23, 24 kilometers since they went. And this is Lars Mikkelsen sitting here at the back of the 3. Pianagonda and Max Chandri. Well, when Chandri gets caught along with the other 2, he will still see that with this group is his team captain, Lance Armstrong, so the Motorola's still have a chance. And Max may not have given his all either to this breakaway, some 15 miles out in front, but they never really got clear. And there's the group led around by Gonchenkov. He was on the inside for Maurizio Fondres, his team leader, is also in that group. And the Roslottos have to be quite well represented up here at the moment. I think they've got 3 riders in this breakaway. And now the counter-attacks are going to start, I think, once they bring them back. It's still a lot of wheel bridging from the back of the line. That's the hard part. If you can't get round the corner first, then you spend a lot of time closing down gaps left open by others. Peeling down through the trees at the head of the Tour of Flanders, bar just those 3 riders, and there's an attack that looks like Maurizio Fondries going there. So, classic move. If it is Fondries, it comes just at the right time, and it is indeed Fondries. And he's on the attack now, so Maurizio has put in a big attack here to try and go clear. And right with him there, it looks as though he's got for company Rolf Jerman, the former champion of Switzerland. So Fondriest and Jerman, around about 41 kilometres to go to the finish, have put in the attack. They've swept up the breakaways. We've got 2 new leaders now. And Maurizio Fondriest, who used to live here in Belgium when he was racing on the team of Peter Post. That was the Panasonic team, but he seems to have refound his old form by returning back to Italy. And he was one of the few Italians, though, that really did seem to settle in Belgium. It's very difficult. It's such a different lifestyle for the Italians. But now Fondriest, 31 years of age, Maurizio now, turned pro in 1987. Joined by Rolf Jerman, 2 very strong men here. And Fondriest returning to his form after 1994, when he had a disc problem with his back, and he's now sort of more or less refound himself. But another service wheel there, and this time it really are some bad luck for the Telecom boys today, because that is Olaf Ludwig this time who's punctured, and Ludwig is going to have to fight back. Look at those beautiful legs of the man who won the gold medal for East Germany in the Seoul Olympic Games. And Ludwig probably riding out his last season, another big name we won't see in the peloton next year. But things change for him at the right time. And a little tap there on the backside of Eddie Manzolini from the Saeco team to say, come on, we can get back on here. But we're going back up to the leaders. Maurizio Fondriest, the pace being set by Rolf Jerman. And Fondriest winning Milan-San Remo in 1993, but that was a superb year because he won 25 races that year. He also won Flèche Wallonne. He finished 3rd in the Leeds Classic, 3rd in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He won the World Cup, 2nd in Paris Tours. You could go on forever. That was the year of Maurizio Fondriest, 1993. As we now go on to the Berendries, 13% at its steepest point, and an average of around about 7%. And the Berendries now coming at 229 kilometres into the stage, which means there are 25 miles still to go as André Schmil now does come to the front and really tries to stretch this group. They obviously want to contain what is the most serious attack so far, really. And Fondriest knows if he can get clear, then he's going to have a big problem bringing him back. Schmil coming right up to our motorbike here as he turns in a very good turn of speed at the front here to try and thin down this little group, but they are so tenacious today. Nobody seems to want to drop off, but Schmil's job has been well done because there's Maurizio Fondriest coming back into the fold. He really is, as Robert Miller says, an immaculate bike rider, isn't he? Even when he's under pressure, it hardly looks as though it's really hurting him. Anyway, that's the thing to do. When you see your teammate caught, you go for it yourself, and Alexander Gonchenkov now has also decided to turn the screw. Sorry about this little bit of picture breakup. As usual, it's the microwave problems we're having reaching the signals up to the helicopter. Gonchenkov on the attack. Schmil somehow has found the strength to dig again as we go over the top of the Berendries. And it looks as though Gonchenkov was happy with the prize at the top because he sat up immediately. As we go down a little bit now, and there's a split in the group, or is there? 7 or 8 riders obviously not too keen on breaking away. We all decide now is the time to take a drink and reassess the situation. 24 miles from the finish. Museo leading us down the hill, followed by Schmil, and the little graphic there said 3 hills to come and 2 stretches of pave. Still lying ahead, and the big daddy of them all, the wall of Grammont. Muir, that comes as the penultimate climb of the day. If you've got the strength, that's where you hammer home the advantage. There's still an awful lot of riders left in the 80th Tour of Flanders Classic. Out on the start line at the start this morning in the Market Square at St. Nicholas, there were 185. It looks as though we've got some in the region of 20-25 riders at least are still in that group, and there's little gaggle of riders trying to rejoin after that climb. There we are, confirmation, 36 miles to go. We're in the Belgian town, or approaching the Belgian town of Brakel. And there's Taffy again, and Rolf Jerman watching Taffy. And this is Vasseur up behind him now from the GAN team. Cedric Vasseur. Still they can't find the combination which might get away from this group. Museo's tried, Fondriest tried, and now another attack from Vasseur. Cedric Vasseur is pushing it on. Looks like Ekimov, winner of the Tour of China at the end of last season. He's pushing it on, but they're not getting it away yet. And now again it's left to Max Chiandri, who has been very attentive since he was caught, has now tried again to go clear. So Chiandri quite clearly is not out of it yet, despite the fact he made that breakaway of some 23-24 kilometers. Gonchenkov, who rode so well in Milan-San Remo, is also paying attention. He's watching every move today. And they might have a little split going here. And the rider here is Gabriella Misaglia from the San Marco group. And that group, by the way, is managed now by Bruno Leali, who in his later years finally got the race lead for a day in the Giro d'Italia, and he also was the Italian champion. Just retired, now looking after the San Marco group team. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 riders getting clear there. Johan Museo is in this group. Ekimov, Chiandri, Misaglia, Schmil. And I think we've got Michele Bartoli down there as well. We've certainly got Gonchenkov. I've seen him. And the man with the flowing locks I caught a glimpse of is Laurent Brochard. He's in this breakaway as well for Festina. Now this is a combination that could work as we head towards the Valkenberg. 53 meters above sea level, the Valkenberg, and this is a climb which is coming at the 234 kilometer point of the race. Cedric Vasseur at the back of the group at the moment. Johan Museo just ahead of him. This is now a tasty little breakaway group here with all the teams represented. Andre Schmil for Lotto. Max Chiandri for Motorola on the move again. And this is Laurent Brochard as we've got an attack up front by Gonchenkov for Ross Lotto. So this is a strong move now as we start the climb of the Valkenberg. They come thick and fast, and they're short, these climbs, but they really do hurt. Look at the face of Andre Schmil on the right here. And the cool face of Mr. Poker player himself, Johan Museu. Max has chosen the right wheel to follow. Gonchenkov slips a little way back down the line. And it looks to me as though Peter van Petegem for TVM has also realised that's a pretty good group, and TVM haven't got a man in it. He's trying to get across. But again, the lack of cohesion, nobody wants to push on. It's probably because they don't like the thought of having Museo in the group at all. And Van Petegem here, I think, has slipped away from the front, because Van Petegem went on the bottom of that climb. Our camera stayed with this lead group, and they're now bringing Van Petegem back. Gonchenkov is the man setting the pace. There's Brochard, Ekimov, Max Chiandri, Cedric Vasseur. And there is the compilation of that breakaway group, as we've called it. The man missing is Peter van Petegem, but I think he's going to be with us very soon, if not behind. I make it 11 riders now have made this breakaway group here. And there is Beat Ziberg, also trying to get across. And this is the Carrera team rider. Claudio Chiappucci, the big favourite, by the way, with the crowd, not riding in the Tour of Flanders today. So Beat Ziberg is the man who's got the team captaincy. The rider up front, in fact, is Peter van Petegem now. And if Beat Ziberg can get up there, then maybe they will contact the lead group, because in fact Peter van Petegem is behind the group. Cedric Vasseur at the tail of it. And a good combination now, because the Mapei have got the riders up here they want. So too is MG. Ross Lotto have gone Chenkov, and Rabobank have got Ekimov. Festina have got Brochard, Lotto have got Schmill, Motorola Chandri. The big teams. It doesn't leave a lot of chase power back in that field there now to pull them back, and Museo may have read this right. The only thing that could cause the stumble is the fact that the riders in this breakaway will not really want to carry Museo to the finish. There's 10 riders down there. Second round the bend, Max Chandri, his second big breakaway move of the day. He is racing very, very well at this time of the year. He's riding superbly, and here comes the arrival of Bietzberg. So we've now got 11 men up front. Sitting at the back, Peter van Petegem, who bridged the gap as well. That was a good ride by Peter. And Max is the end of the original breakaway here, for the moment at least. Now he isn't, because back comes Andre Schmill. Brochard takes out his final bit of fuel for the day. And there's the complete compilation now of the breakaway, and it's good. And amazingly, only 2 Italians in the breakaway. The country must be cracking. I doubt it. The Tour of Flanders has never been a kind race for the Italians over the years, but over the past couple of years, of course, with the Italians taking on such a grip on world cycling, Tour of Flanders, like any other race, has had more than its fair share of success for them. Gianni Bugno winning here. André Tappi in the centre of that group there. This is quite a nice little chase group, but I don't think it's going to get on terms now unless it really has to work hard. And Mario Sciria from the Saeco team is up here in the chase as well. And that's Franco Ballerini. So this is a pretty powerful second group that's forming behind. But Ballerini isn't going to chase down his teammate, that's for sure. Edwig van Hooijdonk, number 73. Well, he's the man that they used to call the boss of the Bosberg. He's not only won the Tour of Flanders twice, but he's also won the Amateur Tour of Flanders before he turned pro as well. Seems to have refound himself a little bit this year, Edwig. He was a big talking point when he did turn pro, because his first shot at Paris-Roubaix he finished 5th. Now, is that group making any progress or not? Little Gabriella Misaglia seems to be having a little bit of trouble hanging on to the tail of the group here. Chenkov under control. What a good rider he's turning out to be now. Really seems to be coming into full bloom. He's looking for his first win of the year, but he's had second on the overall in Tirreno Adriatico and second in Milan San Remo. So the win can't be far away. And again, he's been in the thick of the action all day today. And this is a pretty good group now that's come together at the front. Still the Mur de Grammont to come, the climb of the wall. Steep and very cobbled towards the top. And this main field behind now really has lost a lot of its impetus, because there is nobody really to organise the chase. The combination of this breakaway has fallen almost into perfection now. It's exactly what the riders wanted. They'll be a bit unhappy to find Museo in it, but even so, there's still only a 10-second gap here. Van Hooijdonk a little bit slow to respond, gritting his teeth. But respond he does, as he gets nicely up to the back wheel of Mario Sciria. And the pace being set here in this chase group by one of the Polti riders. And it looks as though it was Gianluca Pianagonda, who's been very, very active. And like Chandri, seems to have survived well his brief escape and still has some strength left. And you can see in the gaps the way that back bunch reforms all the time. They still haven't organised themselves, but they're still very much in this race. This is the lead group. Still 11 men. Cedric Vasseur for Gans, Chandri for Motorola, Ekimov for the Rabobanks. There's Laurent Brochard on the front now for Festina. Gonchenkov again dancing on the pedals. Andre Schmil, the big danger here. Peter van Petergem riding for TVM, just peeping into the right of our camera there. There he is. And here comes a move by Andre Schmil now, the acceleration from the little Russian rider. And it's clear then that Johan Museo fears Schmil because he's immediately on him. Straight away on him. The rider there, Gabriele Massaglia, is the little Italian who's butting in to the big duo there. There he goes. Peter van Petergem beat Zeeberg. And there's Gonchenkov, his colours of the Roslotto team always standing out. Brochard behind him. And Cedric Vasseur, the Frenchman, sitting at the back of the group. As we twist and turn our way around the villages here, the riders continue to just hang on to a very tenuous lead. And again, another new Italian name on the block. We see him here, Massaglia. So Brochard is feeling maybe a touch of cramp coming on here. He's getting around to be in the cramp zone now as we head down towards the finish with just 2 climbs to come. A little bit of a respite and a long ride towards Gerardsbergen, which is where the Mieux de Grammont sits in the town there. And you see that group behind, surprisingly, is refusing to desist, and they are closing in. There could still be a big bunch by the time we get to the Muir. Nine kilometres we've got still to race to the Muir. And in that chase group, the white jersey of the World Cup leader, the winner of Milan-San Remo. He's still in the race, Gabriele Colombo. We haven't seen hardly a thing of him, but he is in that second group. And there's a real chance now he could still score points here if he can catch up and go with the final move, which is certain to come on the Mieux de Grammont or the Bosberg. Museo has been at the front all day monitoring affairs. He's ridden a good race. Now has he ridden one good enough? Coming alongside Zberg. Miles, well, kilometres, 25 or about 15.25 miles to go to the finish. Michele Bartoli, number 12 there. 5th in the line. Max Chandry, Peter van Petergem, and the new boy on the block for the Italians today, Bisaglia. Well, we've now renamed our second group, the group Colombo. Tribute to our new World Cup holder, leader rather, not holder yet. That's the honour of Johan Museo in the front group. Taking the World Cup finally last season after 2 second places. Always said he's not been a man to aim for the World Cup, and yet he's always finished in the top 3. Riders trying to bridge the gap here. And this looks like the return of well, apart from the fact that we've got Fondres coming up, it looks as though we've got Aldag and Olaf Ludwig trying to get away. There's Baldato, second last year. Some tremendous firepower still in this group here. Pianagonda, Carlo Bowmans. And that's Eric Zabel, the sprinter. So it was Zabel who was with Olaf Ludwig, I think. There is Colombo going through. The man who found victory at the first attempt of Milan-San Remo. The World Cup leader, and now finding himself possibly in with a shout at some points again here in round number 2 in Belgium. Looking ahead of the riders there, you can see the tail of the following cars behind those 11 front runners. We're not looking at much more than about 25 seconds, I would think. But it's being left completely here to Telecom because they haven't got a man in the breakaway, and if they can present Zabel with the finish, then he's a very likely sprint winner. Rolf Aldag was setting the pace. So Telecom, the big losers so far of the breakaway, as we now move up to the leaders as Schmil starts to continue the pace, followed by Brochard, Ekimov. A superb Russian rider who held at one stage, I think it was 11 world records on the track. Cedric Vasseur, Nicola Bartoli. Always seems to enjoy his racing in Belgium. Bartoli's had so much success here, winner of the Grand Prix Pinot Cerami as well in years gone by. Peter van Petegem. Nice mixture of nationalities. Max Chandry, the Italian with an English license who races on an American team. And somebody's pulled them out at the left of the road there. And it looks as though, in fact, Colombo is in a little bit of trouble here. This is an attack from the second group, and trying to go with it is the Telecom team. They've caught Colombo struggling a bit. Different type of race, of course, to Milan San Remo, but he's bridged the gap just that little bit. Andrea Taffi is alongside him, but they're not teammates. Number 107 here is Eric Zabel, the sprinter who won at Charleroi in the Tour de France last year. And no doubt we'll hope he lands one or two stages again this time out. It's the sort of road which is not conducive to this breakaway now, because they can see them, and this is where they're going to try and scrabble across quickly before we do arrive in Gerardsbergen. And Petegem sitting at the back behind Johan Museo. Somebody's attempted an attack off the front. It wouldn't surprise me if it's not Andre Schmil. He's the sort of man that goes for these breakaways, and he seems to be missing from the line. Max Chandry is after him though. It is Schmil, that little dashing figure on the right of the road, has tried to get away here. He saved it for one big effort, but they're chasing him down, and it looks as though Museo in the end is going to have to close it down himself. But that counter-attack at that point, I think, was required to lift the impetus of this breakaway, because they're in big danger of being picked up. And that looks as though it might be Nicola Bartoli who's just gone off the front now. Good time to put in the counter move when they brought back one. And Museo was the man that finished off the breakaway of Schmil. He's not going to be too keen to go again just yet, and it's Bartoli who's gone this time. Now, there's no organisation. This breakaway was so afraid it was going to get caught. This is what's caused the panic. Museo has found his legs now. Chandry looks over, a little bit of help. He'd like Ekimov to come through. Ekimov does. In fact, Bartoli is here in this group, so we'll find out who's gone in a minute. But that's Bartoli now behind Ekimov. And the group more or less coming back together again, so I think Bartoli was clear. He was wiped out there. Now Cedric Vasseur has gone. So Cedric Vasseur goes clear, and I've been trying to find out if he's related to the famous big professional Alain Vasseur. I even asked the manager of the team, Roger Leger, and he didn't know. I thought he might have known, because he actually did employ Cedric, but he laughed about it. But he couldn't give me the answer, so if anybody knows, send me a little letter as Cedric Vasseur starts the attack. There's some great racing going on amongst this group, and surely it's pulling them away from that chase group now, but I'm not so sure it is. And Vasseur, you can see his lead. He's got a very good lead now, and this is an interesting move for Gann to try and get a breakaway going here as the Gann rider goes off up the road. And now we're looking back down the road here at the breakaway. Little bit disorganized, could do with a bit more help, I think. Ekimov is the sort of man who might take it up in the orange jersey there, because he likes to go for the long ones as well. He doesn't carry the punch of somebody like Museo when it comes down to the finish. 20 kilometers left to go and still 2 climbs to come. Cedric Vasseur out on the attack. We've only had one French winner in years of this race, and that was after that long breakaway, you might recall, in 1992 by Jackie Durand, who won ahead of Thomas Wegmuller and then Edwig van Hooijdonk. I think that was the first win since Forestier in 1956. Jean Forestier. The French don't win this race very often, and so maybe that's why they're not chasing down Vasseur immediately. He's not a big winner by any manner of means, but neither was Jackie Durand when he won. And he's got a nice gap. And they're going to leave it to somebody else, as usual, to do the chasing, because he took his chance after a big flurry of attacks. And that means the rider's getting a little bit tired. He hit them hard at the right time, and he's got the gap, and he's looking pretty good. Well, this is a fine performance by Vasseur. There he is, ranked 245 at the start of the season. Just a little bit of a check to see how the break is going. Well, the gap is there. It's a measurable gap now, and if he keeps this up, he'll soon have the following team vehicles. Have a look down, and you see the gap is a good one now. There they are, tucked in on the right of the road as we look at them. All 10 that are left here. Rochard. 14 seconds they're saying to the Museo group, which is this group here, which is continually splitting up. Gonchenkov marshalling affairs, fourth in line. A superb pursuing figure of Vyacheslav Yekimov. Usually wins a stage of the Tour de France, and when he does, he usually breaks away about a kilometre out and rides everybody off his wheel. But as you get older, of course, you lose that pure speed. And I think Vyacheslav is beginning to lose that pure speed now. Museo just sitting around the back, and Peter van Petegem knows all about Johan Museu. Bitziberg, Ekimov, and the surprise move by the Italian Misaglia. Schmil goes down the line. There's still plenty of riders working pretty hard in this group. 17 seconds though now. Michele Bartoli comes off the front. Max Chandry goes on the front, digs in deep. See, that line is not fluid. There's one or two going through, and others don't want to. Max drops down on the inside. They've got themselves a better group here now. 6 riders seem to be willing to work. Rochard, Peter van Petegem. I don't think Peter van Petegem trusts Johan Museu. He's keeping an eye on him all of the time. We're 45 seconds out now to what is really the main field. That's not very much at all. And 17 seconds is the lead of Vasseur. So they've more or less locked onto him, and he's hovering out front. And we're not very far now from starting our climb in Gerardsbergen. Turning off what appears to be a highway, we now head up towards the town and the Muur de Grammont. And then we'll see just who is strong and left in this breakaway, because this is where it's going to happen. We're heading up towards the start of the wall now, and there's it is. 5 stars for the Muur. You'll see why any second now. 20%. Or 1 in 5, and it climbs up to 92 meters. So it's not the height we worry about. No oxygen required from that, but it might be required for the effort, because it gets very hard before the top. And it's a Frenchman of all people in the Tour of Flanders who gets us there first, in Cedric Vasseur. Hats off to him. Now, if he can still be in the lead over the top of this climb, he can start to think he might be winning the Tour of Flanders. They know it behind as well, and Museo certainly knows it. Museo is still at the back. Whether he wants to stay there, we get onto a narrow cobbled road here. The following cars, by the way, are banned from climbing up this road. They have to go round, because they can't take the risk of the cars stopping on the climb and not restarting, therefore blocking the whole of the Tour of Flanders. So they're sent around, and the riders are sent up it. Well, a little fellow there at the from the San Marco group, Misaglia, he looks as though he might be a climber. Whether he's seen a climb like this before, I have to say I don't know. There he is. What a tiny bicycle frame he rides. Schmil gets a good look at the climb first. Chandry in an excellent place here too. The crouching figure of Yekimov. Up comes the man who set the trend today, Vasseur. Belgian crowd applauding him and cheering him as he heads up towards the tough section. This is the easy bit. Now, bang, onto the tough section. And there's the group just behind him. And as we wind our way towards the top of the climb, you can just watch his legs here as they gradually slow down as the cobbles begin to bite. As Cedric Vasseur heads off towards the summit, André Schmil leads onto the climb. And still no attack coming from Johan Museeuw, which is where I really did think he was sitting at the back to launch an attack right here, but nothing apparent. Smil sets the place on the climb with Bartoli. Behind him is Gonchenkov, Brochard. And they've ridden all the way up here towards the back wheel of Vasseur. That's the difference the hill makes. They'll turn left, they'll see the climb continue. Just a little bit, but over the top here, and you know, they've caught Vasseur. Now they kick again. This is Michele Bartoli who's gone. I expected Museeuw, but Bartoli's gone. I don't see Museeuw, in fact. I think Museeuw has been shed at the back of that group, and Bartoli has gone. Smil had no answer to that at all, neither has Brochard. Vasseur is now in trouble and just wishes the climb would end. Ekimov and Chandri go by him, and we haven't seen Johan Museeuw, and he is going to come up that climb, I think, last of the leaders. So obviously something has happened there. Johan Museeuw is either in trouble with his legs or he has a flat tire. We'll find out, I hope, as the race goes on, but he's not there. And this is a great ride now by Michele Bartoli. Brochard and Smil go over in second and third, followed by Gonchenkov over the top of the Mur de Grammont. Still the Bosberg to come, of course, climb number 16, and still looking for the figure of Johan Museeuw. Well, whatever happened awfully quickly. There goes the little non-climb, as it turns out, from the San Marco group, and Misaglia. And there's Museeuw, his hand is up. It looks as though he may well have a flat tyre, and the way he's indicating it's his back one. And the group is right on him. So the group is right on to Johan Museeuw. So that's really bad luck. It's come at the most crucial stage of the race when I think Johan Museeuw would have been planning the attack. Instead, it was an Italian who planned the move, and he has gone. Michele Bartoli has moved clear of the field here. He's leaving himself an awful long way to ride. He's left with a chasing group. He's lying in the UCI rankings 10th at the moment. That's because of his consistency in the World Cup races last year. Now, behind him, we know we've got Gonchenkov, Chandri, Smil, Brochard. I think Vasseur is still there. And Vyacheslav Yekimov is the other rider. We'll no doubt switch back to them very shortly, but now we're watching the possibility of yet another Italian World Cup win here. And this is Johan Museeuw riding alone. I don't know whether he's had a wheel change or what, but he's looked over his shoulder and sees the winner of Milan-San Remo go by him. Baldato is here as well. And Fabiano Fontanelli, who's having a great season, is also here. And so he's got a good workmanlike group. Now, I think he sorted out the problem. He doesn't seem to... It seems to me he might have another bike here because he's adjusting the brake at the back. It doesn't look like his normal position, so he could well have changed the bike. Looking around, no, because number one is on the frame, so he hasn't changed his bike, but he's certainly done something to it, and he's now going to try and get back into the action. Well, it is still just about possible because the breakaway is not that far ahead. And Fabio Baldato, he was second a year ago. He's not going to want to take Museeuw back up there because this man is his teammate. And Michele Bartoli is now clear, albeit by a few seconds, but still the climb of the Bosberg to come. If he can get over the Bosberg, he can then go for gold. 10th in the overall UCI rankings, his best ever position at the start of this year. And that's become possible because of his fine riding last season. Only 2 wins indeed, but he started off with a 5th place in Milan-San Remo, finished 7th in this event, the Tour of Flanders, went on to stay in Belgium and notch a 3rd place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Came over to Britain, something of a flop there. He only managed 53rd in the Leeds Classic, the World Counter on British soil. Then he rode and finished 9th in the Tour of Spain and ended the season on a high note with 3rd in the Tour of Lombardy. So he's got the quality. He seems to enjoy racing and winning in Belgium, and now he's gone. And they're going to have to do something about it. The composition of that chase group is Chandri, Gonchenkov, Smil, Brochard, Vasseur and Ekimov. They are the 6 riders now, and remember, not very far behind indeed is a big chase back now currently going on, and Museeuw is part of it. His race in the last couple of kilometres has been turned upside down. Gonchenkov comes through and off, followed by Yekimov. Oh, in fact, it's Gonchenkov coming through now. And on his wheel, we have Max Chandri. Max Chandri's had a very strong race today. But again, it looks as though a man has slipped away and maybe stolen the victory that Max felt was his because he's such a good rider in a small group. Max seems to be the strong man. They're trying to limit the losses without really putting the backs into the chase at the moment. Gonchenkov and Schmil are about to come through. The gap is only 7 seconds. They're holding it. And we're now heading on towards the Bosberg, the last climb of the 1996 Tour of Flanders, the 80th edition of this great race. And we're on to the Bosberg. Short and steep again. And an attack by Laurent Brochard. Brochard wants to see the Bosberg first. That's the sort of reaction we expect to see and hope to see, because that might close the gap. Everybody looking at one another. That's not going to help at all. Vasseur sitting at the back. I think he's tired. This is the Bosberg. This is the leader. Michele Bartoli dancing over the cobblestones now, heading for the summit. He knows that once over the top of this little lot, he can go for gold. Riding a bicycle, a Fausto Coppi machine, the most famous Italian cyclist who ever lived. And now his bike looks as though it could be winning a stage, and stage could be winning this particular Tour of Flanders Classic. Laurent Brochard trying to hold off the field and trying to just snip into second place. Festina would love that. And there's the big crowd we can see on the Bosberg. Very orderly Belgian crowd it is too. Here comes the leader heading up towards the summit. Brochard is trying to get on terms and is closing. Look at this. He looks a little bit closer than it is because of the angle of the cameras and the hill, but it's still only 5 or 6 seconds, and the Brochard is the carrot here to the counter-reaction from the group, because Ekimov has almost got him, and Schmil, then Gonchenkov, then Max Chiandri, and dangling and hoping is Cedric Vasseur at the back. And what's happened here? Well, this is now a bicycle change for Museo, so whatever was wrong with that bike has now finally been sorted out. We're on the Bosberg as well, so in fact Johan Museo must be very close to contacting that lead group. Well, I don't feel that was a second mechanical problem. I think he may have just hung on to whatever the original problem was, and now he's back in the action. And it looked to me as though he was rather close to that Belgian television motorbike, but maybe the angle of the cameras were a bit deceptive. Back with the leader, still trying to chase down the leader. Over the top now. They know now it's all, give all and hope, because there's nothing else to stop the winner if you don't go out and get him. There's no more climbs, there's no more cobblestones. There is a minute rise up to the finishing line, but once you turn right and you see that climb, you also see the finish banner, and then the surge of adrenaline will be all you'll need. Gonchenkov had a magnificent day out, fully deserved, because second in Milan-San Remo, now proving to us all that was no stroke of luck. André Schmil, second for the past 2 years in the Tour of Flanders. Let's have a look down the road. Long, straight, concrete road. That's can be the drawback of the Tour of Flanders, because the run-in, they can see you if you've only just nipped away from the lead group. They're going to see these motorbikes, and they're going to see the yellow lead car, the sponsoring newspaper. But Michele Bartoli, who has probably had as many victories as most Italians can ever anticipate on Belgian roads. I know there's been a lot of success for some. There's Eddie Merckx in the passenger seat there of the car watching the race. The great Eddie Merckx, of course, who won this race in 1975, and previously to that he won it in 1969. And we are 10 kilometers from the finish. Bartoli settling in now to what he hopes will be a time trial to victory at last. After all of those places, a World Cup, a victory is a real possibility. There is previous best, 7th last year as I told you earlier, 41st the year before. Continues his progression. The ultimate could be coming his way right now. He's certainly got plenty of fight in those legs at this minute in time, and there's only 6 riders behind him. We hear that Museo is closing in, but our cameras aren't showing us the pictures. Ekimov, Schmil, Brochard, Chiandri, Gonchenkov are the group behind. A little glimpse at the old speedometer there, around about 55 kilometers an hour. That's just over 30. There's the chase group, and gone from it now is Cedric Vasseur. So he was dropped on the Bosberg. As our camera goes searching, the gap has opened enormously, and surely now Bartoli has taken this victory. Even in as far back as 90, he only turned pro in 1992, by the way, but in 1993 he showed us just how much respect he had for the Belgian roads when he finished 7th in the Flesh Wallon, 8th in Gent-Wevelgem. Then he came back in 1994 and he won the Flesh Brabançon. So he really does enjoy the Belgian roads, which is most unusual for an Italian. They hate the roads, they hate the food, and they usually hate the weather because they just love everything about Italy. Ekimov just digging that little bit deeper. What a classy bike rider he is. And André Schmil sitting nicely behind him, looking very comfortable. Same must be said too of Max Schiandri. And Schmil gritting his teeth and accelerating. Schiandri concentrating and just keeping his wheel and not afraid to do his share of the work, and Max never is. But I'm afraid this breakaway is going to feel a little bit discouraged now. There's our man up the road, and with the tricks of the technical whiz of Camerman, we can keep our eye on him, but the riders can't because he's out of their sight now. Completely out of their sight as we're counting down the run into the finish. 5 miles to go, inside 5 miles to go. At this sort of speed, we're looking at about 12 minutes maybe. 12 minutes separating Bartoli from his first ever World Cup win. No more news on the Museo group as to their exact location, but the reports are that they are closing in on these 5 riders, although we can't see even from our helicopter. And let's have a look. There we go, the long empty road. Michele Bartoli has made this everything or nothing today. He just went, consolidated on the Bosberg, and has flown over the top. Well known to all the Belgian spectators. Those long empty roads of a rather late spring in Belgium here. The start of the spring classics, of course, really, because coming up Gent-Wevelgem, and also there's Eddy Merckx there sitting very passive, the same face he always had when he was racing and winning, and Paris-Roubaix. And by the way, while we're here in Belgium, we have with us a small group of Americans who are enjoying a full week touring around these classic venues with World Cycling Productions, and we thought you might like to see at the end of this program a little video on how they all enjoyed themselves. So I hope you enjoy it as well. Schiandri looks over his shoulder. This little group here, I think, feeling somewhat dejected now. And Bartoli hit them at the right moment. Laurent Brochard, Gonchenkov. These are the men on form, though, the men who will go on to the other classics, and probably similar names we can expect to see. The Rabobank, a new team, has had their best start under Jan Raast, who's had a variety of teams that have not made a great start to the years gone by, but this year they have. Flowing next of Brochard. Then comes Gonchenkov. There isn't a man not doing his fair share in this breakaway now, except the rider just coming into the picture on the right. I'm trying to get a glimpse of him, but I think somebody's come up to the group. There's Gonchenkov. I think the rider who has made the group, it looks like it might be the Carrera rider, Bietzberg. I don't think Vasseur has got back, but we'll check it out. The road has opened up, and although they appear to be working very well together, I think in fact they're going slower than the race leader now. And this rider only has to keep his composure and go for gold, and he's got the victory. And that will come in Ninove, in the village of Meerbeke. And in fact, if you were driving from the start of St. Nicholas back to Meerbeke, well, it's only about an hour by car across country to see the start and then rush on to see the finish. But of course you can also pop out into the hills and see the riders down there as well. So Michele Bartoli now trying to give Italy win number 2 in the World Cup. Colombo, though, has not got up to this group yet, and it was Bietzberg who came on, so that was a fine piece of riding. He's replaced Vasseur in this breakaway, the Swiss rider. And this is the leader again now, and the gap has gone up. It's enormous. 52 seconds, and we're calling it the group Schmill because Museo is still trying to get back on terms, and he hasn't done so yet, and time is running out. And this rider has never hesitated at all as we go under the 4 kilometres to go banner. So he's just over 2.5 miles from the finish with a lead of almost a minute. I don't think anybody's going to bridge it now to Michele Bartoli. He's going to convert all of his places into a World Cup victory at last. And he keeps his composure and his rhythm. He must be feeling pretty good inside, though. He timed his attack so well as he jumped just before the Bosberg and then went clear. And the car coming up here is that driven by Giancarlo Ferretti, the manager of the MG Technogym team. And he's going to feel a pretty happy man here as he plays dodgems to try and get up to his man at the front. At the moment, I think Eddie Merckx is talking to him. But he's making his way up, and this will be just for talk only and to cheer him on as we approach the last 3 kilometres to go. Ferretti alongside him. This man who has coached so many good cyclists, and look at the smile on his face now. Out comes all the information. You're 57 seconds ahead of Schmill's group. You've got it in the bag. Just keep it going. All that'll be coming at him now. And just ride to the victory. And now he's on his way, clearly on the road again. In Italy, we've seen the Harewicz team win in Milan-San Remo. Now the MG team are going to take victory here, but not with Baldato, the man we might have expected to be in at the kill because he was second a year ago, but with Michele Bartoli. He's just ridden with his hands on the centre of those bars, almost relaxed. Almost his wrists were resting on the handlebars there. And here's the car, driven by Eddie Merckx, who still maintains a high degree of interest in the sport, to say the least. And his son, of course, a professional this year, riding with Team Motorola. And this now is the group behind, and you know, this is a much, much bigger group. In fact, Museo is here. Look at the length of this group. Museo has come back, and I don't know how many riders he's brought back with him, but this is now a major group again. So those 6 chasers have thrown their chance away. Max Chandri included now, because there are an awful lot of riders here for company. And Museo has somehow got back. There's Bietzberg, who was in the original 6, but now has a lot of company, Gonchenkov. So Michele Bartoli is still ahead of the field, but there is a big race on now for second place. Well, that's an extraordinary piece of riding by Johan Museo. We're 1.5 kilometres from the finish here now for Bartoli. So we're just over 2 kilometres for the Museo group. But he came back literally from the dead there to rejoin that group. It would have been a chase I think we'd have all liked to have seen, but unfortunately Belgian television didn't show us a single picture of that chase back. But Museo has done it as we now follow the leader in towards the finish. He's down the main street. There's a sharp right at the far end of it, and then it's up the hill to the line. And there's nobody going to touch him now. He's half a mile from the finish, or a kilometre if you like. He's receiving the applause of the crowd all the way along the streets here in Miyabika. And we're going to see an Italian victory, which will be the first one since Gianni Bugno. And Michele Bartoli is going to add his name to not too many Italians to win this great event. There's the group, and just look how big it is now. That group has really swelled up as the riders are coming in for the sprint for second place. And the last look over his shoulder. Now he'll see the finish very, very shortly up the rise as he turns for home. And Bartoli is going to enjoy this. The MG Technogym team are going to clean up again. Well, I say again, they're only second last year. But now they've gone one better. Merckx in the car behind follows in home. He knows exactly how he feels. And he's going to drive all the way to the line here before he relaxes at 100 metres to go. Then comes a salute to Michele Bartoli. Takes World Cup round 2, this time the Tour of Flanders for Italy. And the MG Technogym rider, an average speed of just over 25.5 miles an hour. for the race. Now the big sprint, and right in the thick of this big sprint now is Johan Museeuw again. He's trying to get a good lead out here. André Schmil is right there as well. And so too on the far right is Ekimov, but he really isn't the big sprinter, Ekimov. Schmil might be though. Baldato's coming on the left. This is going to be a very tight, it could be a 1-2. It's Baldato in the centre. 1-2 for MG. Museeuw, I don't think has got it on the line. Fabio Baldato, Johan Museeuw, and then came Ekimov. So it wasn't a bad sprint by the Russian. He got 4th. And Fabiano Fontanelli, I think, was up there in 5th place. But there is the rider who did so much and in the end didn't get the reward he would have deserved. Max Chandry.
Max, that was a tough race, and it looked as if it was going to be in the bag there until Bartoli jumped away on the Mur de Grammont.
Yeah, you know, it's a shame all day in the front, and I nearly fell in the sprint, so probably didn't get me in the 10th place. So
it was a bit of a hard race, but Johan Museeuw had a lot of bad luck too. Were you surprised when he came back?
Yeah, you know, I just don't like the way they race. Just riding in the front all day. I mean, what's that? That's not riding, you know. That's not just. Didn't have no tactics to the race. Just riding in the front, his teammates, and that was about it.
What about next week, Paris-Roubaix?
Another week. We'll see.
We certainly will, Max. We wish you all the best because the work rate has been quite tremendous. Max finishing, in fact, in 16th place. This is what happens when you win the race because people make a big fuss of you. And Michele Bartoli is really going to enjoy the next few minutes of the Tour of Flanders because now the hard work is over. And the pleasurable bit, the congratulations coming first from Giancarlo Ferretti, the MG Director Sportif. And the Italians always know how to say, well done. And of course the team getting first and second, and this here, the victory as he reaches for the sky because this is one of the best classic races to win. Michele Bartoli taking the flag in solitude, which is always the best way to win a bike race anyway. Is there any stopping the Italians? Well, that's what the whole world of cycling I think is asking these days. They all seem to be riding so very, very well. A look at the final result. Michele Bartoli winning from his teammate Baldato, then Museeuw, Ekimov, Schmil, Jesper Skibby getting good 6th, Laurent Brochard taking 7th, and Rolf Sorensen, despite his puncture, he got 10th place on the day. And so now we have yet another Italian name to conjure with, that of Michele Bartoli. Leading his MG team to a 1-2 today in the Tour of Flanders. He finished with enough time in hand to see his own teammate Fabio Baldato outsprint Johan Museeuw. Museeuw taking 3rd, and that was a good result considering he had that problem on the Mur de Grammont. So Johan, in his last 4 Tours of Flanders, has now had 2 wins, a 2nd and a 3rd. What a great record. On behalf of Paul Sherwen, I'm Phil Liggett saying so long for now. Of course the canals do smell in Ghent, and it would be all the worse if they didn't, because you wouldn't be in a country which loves the sport and which the people always love you. Our little group enjoyed their 10 days following the big classic races, Ghent-Wevelgem, the Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix, and we also managed to give them a little conducted tour as well. We visited Ghent Centre and we went off down to the beautiful lace capital, Bruges. And we actually rode down here, and it wasn't a very nice day. As you can see, there was mist in the sky, there was a chill wind in the air, and of course we had all of those flat tyres, which took quite a long time to change. Still, the coffee was good in the market square. Down by St. Peter's Station in Ghent, where I used to live for many, many months of the season, there are plenty of bicycles. This is a cycling mad city. It's the best way to get around, of course. That's why cyclists are respected. If you ride your bike, then you usually have a march on everybody else. At least you have something in common with the people of Ghent, the Ghentois. There are quite a lot of American people now making their way in Belgium as bike riders, but our little group had the pleasure of being close up with some of the stars. They saw Paul Sherwen interviewing Johan Museeuw in the square at St. Nicholas, ready for the start of the Tour of Flanders. And there was also this man, Max Chiandri. Is he British or Italian? Well, he's got a British racing licence anyway.
The main group coming by me just now, Andre Smeel is in...
Then we took them out onto some of the favourite roads that Paul Sherwen used to ride as a professional. They got the close-ups. They were right there in the street too when the winner was brought up to the winner's podium. Here they are, what a motley crew, look at them. Enjoying every minute. Hot dogs escargot, of course I can't keep up either.
All right, here we go, take 2000.
Take 2002. Okay, now let's get this straight. Nancy, you do the first hour on the front, right?
What else alternative?
Okay, well you'll need somebody that knows the way. Where's Kelly?
Behind you.
You do the first hour on the front with Nancy, Kel. No?
What about Grady? What will he do?
Grady will do the first 3 hours on the back anyway. And he did. Tim Grady from World Cycling Productions, who we all thank for these tapes. And we didn't bother to go to the trip to see Eddie Merckx. We've seen him so many times, but all the boys did, and the girls. And they had a great time. Eddie Merckx is a superb character, welcomed everybody into his little cottage industry where he makes these wonderful bikes, and of course wasn't slow in making sure they all got what they wanted, which were autographs, just to prove they'd been to his factory.
U-N-N.
He has a problem spelling, Gunnar.
A-A-R. Can I get one to Bath Cycle?
Certainly not. Oh, well, all right.
B-A-T-H.
Nothing, no treatment at all.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. That's terrible.
You ready?
Yeah. No, I'm not
Hey,
quite
Neil,
ready.
you want to ride back?
Huh?
You want to ride back?
It's 100k.
You know I can't stand this stuff.
That's fine.
And so how far are we riding?
I'm not the kind of guy who likes the television camera. Get down there on Liggett.
Stay away from me. I was happy enough riding near the back of the group. On one of our little rides, we'd just gone across into France here. We didn't even notice the border, it was so small. And there's Sylvie, our Italian chauffeurs, passing up the water bottles. And there's always Sherwen, what a poser.
Thank you for bringing me up, Sylvia.
And the illegal tow applied to Mr. Grady, who rejoined the back of the field. No penalty. Now this is on the course of Ghent-Wevelgem. And watch Sherwen. This is a man who's ridden Ghent-Wevelgem. He's on the left, by the way. What a fool, eh? This is the Kemmelberg.
Oh, Sherwen, your comments. What happened on the climb there?
Well, I was just trying to show these guys what would happen if there was a crash, so I just staged that fall so they could understand and get the real feeling of Ghent-Wevelgem. That's what it's all about. You're looking for the traffic jams, you're looking for the crashes. And so that way they really got the feeling of Ghent-Wevelgem. We'll do anything for Tim Grady.
Are you buying any of this?
Yeah.
So the group continued. In the mauve there is Rich Carlson, the editor of Winning magazine.
How'd it go, man?
I can't speak, I'm absolutely shattered.
Oh, it's great. I'm a little tired, but I think I'll be all right.
How'd the young Cubs do, sir? What'd you think?
They did great, yes. But I did, well, I did like Johan Museeuw doing Ghent-Wevelgem. Rubbish.
Now we all understand that. This is Tom Steels, of course. He pretends to be a real cyclist. He won Ghent-Wevelgem. And this is the team. They're in the Forest of Arenberg here. They wouldn't be standing there on the day of Paris-Roubaix. But of course, after this...
Well, this is the start of the Forest of Arenberg. I really don't know if they know what they're letting themselves in for. We've got a few sections here over 3 kilometres long. We'll see how they feel at the end of the first section.
Mean. So with trepidation, this brilliant team head out into the Forest of Arenberg.
Unfortunately, over the next section of cobbles, there's no little track down towards the side. So everybody's going to have to ride the cobblestones.
It's not Paul Sherwen's bike. He pinched it from the Motorola team, by the way.
What? Gloves? Gloves are for sissies.
You see, we even arranged the train to stop the break. Let's hope it doesn't happen when Paris-Roubaix comes by. Poser Sherwen first over the line. That's the railway line, by the way. Chased by Gunnar. I'll tell you a secret, Gunnar dropped him. Then comes the wife in 4th place. Now, you can never take the wife anywhere. She knocks the paying clients off. This is Nancy. Nancy was winning as well. The troops regroup. The speed is now up to all, 8 mile an hour. Tom on his new Eddie Merckx. And after they'd enjoyed their visit over 5 stretches of the cobblestones used in Paris-Roubaix, we put them all in a car and we took them to Compiègne. There's our hotel and a great restaurant. And in fact, Compiègne, the start town of Paris-Roubaix, and we are in France. Money, no object, as long as Tim Grady is paying. And the team have been out souvenir hunting now at the start of Paris-Roubaix. Great book.
Springtime in France is the classic. Oh, sorry.
Manners, please.
Say when, Joe? Going to. Springtime in France as the cobbles again welcome the riders to the 95th running of the Paris-Roubaix.
Got it right at last. There's a man we should see in Paris-Roubaix. Watch out for him. I say his name often enough. He wanted to win it. And Sean Yates, of course. I'll be sorry when Sean Yates retires because he's been such a person in the sport. And this is Paris-Roubaix itself. There's that man again we've just seen. He's leading at the moment. His name, Andrea Taffy. And the team, we even got them into the centre of the track. Took a lot of hard work, but Grady works wonders. They saw the picture, then they saw the real thing. So if you want to join us next year, of course you can, but I have a feeling there'll be a lot of people on the list who want to come and see us. We even got them into the big reception. They ate most of the food, in fact, but there was plenty of it. There they all are, eating. There's the wife giving out the books we got for them. One for Tim Grady, even. And there was all these beautiful old images of 100 years of racing Paris-Roubaix. Just a little snippet. I know this tape will be treasured by those who took part in our special trip, and I hope next time we see some more of you join us. We had a great time.